Welcome to the Whole Career Podcast, where we explore the world of healthcare careers with AdventHealth professionals. I'm your host, Phil Haughton, and I'm excited to take you on a journey of career exploration, development, and success. At AdventHealth, we believe in caring for the whole person, which includes supporting our team members' professional growth and development. In this podcast, we'll be highlighting valuable career information, resources, and advice to help you succeed in both your professional and personal life. Each episode will feature conversations with AdventHealth professionals who will share their personal career journeys, insights, and perspective on various healthcare careers. From nursing to technology to leadership, we'll cover a wide range of topics to help you stay informed and inspired. Whether you're just starting out your career or you're a seasoned professional looking to take the next step, this podcast is for you. We hope to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to grow, succeed, and make a positive impact in your field. At AdventHealth, we believe that we are greater as a whole, and we invite you to join us on this journey. So sit back, relax, and let's explore the world of healthcare careers together.
Welcome back to the Whole Career Podcast. My name is Brandon Strawn. I'm your host. Today, we have an episode where we're going to talk about the tips and tricks or best practices for landing an entry-level position or maybe your first position. So before we get into our episode for the day, I want to introduce to you the newest host of the Whole Career Podcast, Phil Haughton. Phil, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Brandon, I appreciate all the love and support everybody's been showing me. Sky's shoes are going to be big to fill, but we'll see, and I'll try to do my best.
Yeah, no, you're already doing amazing. And so Sky, is still with AdventHealth. She was able to grow within the company, and so she's now taking a different position. However, we're really excited to have you, fill in and really just elevate and continue to take this podcast to new levels. So before we get into that, I know that some of you may have known Sky's role and what she did as a talent attraction strategist, but for those that may not have watched that episode, can you just fill us in on your role as talent attraction strategist?
Yeah, no, great question. I appreciate it. So as a talent attraction strategist, my job essentially is to find different ways, strategies to shed light on AdventHealth to bring new talent into AdventHealth. My strategies particularly are going to be focused on one, doing this podcast. So that's a strategy in ways that we can bring people to AdventHealth, share the AdventHealth message. Another strategy I do is conferences. So I go to conferences across the United States and just try to share the message and bring quality talent to AdventHealth. And then lastly, I do virtual panel discussions. So I'll go and I'll talk to virtually the facilities and just try to elaborate on kind of their vision and their plan for their hospital or their settings that they're currently working on.
Awesome. Tons of work to be done in that space. So just appreciate you doing that. And so as we kick this episode off, I also want to kind of inform everyone just my role so they understand just the level of expertise that I might have. I don't want to be seen as someone that's just giving out these tips, or even yourself just giving out these best practices. So for me, I work for the talent strategy team as a heritage recruitment manager. And so my role is really to strategically recruit individuals from our heritage universities. And a part of that includes the professional development, right? Offering different resources for those universities so that they see value and they see us as experts, but then also to make hires, right? To make sure that transitions into bringing entry-level individuals into AdventHealth, whether that's non-clinically, so business, finance, HR, IT, marketing, communication, or clinically as well. So we specifically recruit graduate nurses. And so that's kind of what my role encompasses. And so in doing that, I've been able to really just accumulate, after interviewing tons of candidates from colleges, but also candidates who are looking to pivot in their career and get that first role in that department or whatever major that they have studied, and kind of been able to amass some tips that I think should help our audience today. So
Yeah. So you're qualified is what you're
yeah, listen, I just want to. I want them to know.
Definitely.
I've
Definitely.
seen a few things, right?
Love
Yeah.
it. We love it. I'm excited to kind of get into it to kind of really help people because once again, I think there's that perception coming out of school or landing your first job, and I think there's a big difference between perception and reality. So I'm excited to get into it. Essentially.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I wanted to briefly speak about what that was like for us
Yeah.
when we were in college or trying to get that first position. And so I can start first, or if you want to go,
Yeah.
I can start kind of with what my journey was like. And so I was fortunate enough. The last semester of college for me was really I was a transfer, and so I had to take really like a couple more credits. I was done with my core credits for my degree, but I just had to take like electives that were specific to that school.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it was a very easy semester, and it was just electives that I had 3 classes. And I know normally, full time or full caseload of courses would be a course load, would be 5 classes, maybe even 6. So for me, had a lot of time on my hands. And so that last semester, I really committed to understanding how I could get a job and walk into a job right after graduation. And so I just committed every day to going online, searching jobs, applying to jobs, not only just doing that, but connecting and networking with individuals that were producers or were able to produce either jobs or connect me and guide me to open positions. And so I did that every day, really for the entire semester. And I was fortunate enough, as soon as I graduated, I started my new position, my first job ever post-college. I started that 2 weeks after graduating.
Wow.
So
I didn't know it was 2 weeks.
that's kind of my story and my journey as to how I was able to get into the entry-level job. And we'll definitely go over some of the tricks that I learned.
Yeah.
But that's just my journey as to
Yeah.
how I was able to land my first entry level job.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was 2 weeks. That is very quick. I think you are extremely fortunate because I don't know too many people who are coming out 2 weeks and starting. So
Yeah.
I love that for you. Honestly, for me, I think it was the polar opposite. And once again, it's that perception versus reality. I think I thought I was owed something initially. I think a lot of people do.
Right.
Like, hey, I did what I was supposed to do. I got the degree. I got out of college, and instantly I was like, okay, I'll throw out a couple of applications. But once again, I now have the degree, so everybody should want me because I have the degree. I've done what I was supposed to do. But that wasn't the case. So I moved back home after college, and I was looking for jobs in my field in Orlando. So I was like, okay, something should come. I'm in Orlando. I don't want to kind of go anywhere else but Orlando. But it was 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and I wasn't finding anything at my field. I was working retail, still trying to figure out why I haven't found anything, essentially. And it wasn't until I continued to open up my horizons to other cities, because once again, I was so laser focused on, oh man, I got to get something in my city. I got to get something within 30 minutes of my house. I was so laser focused on what I thought I wanted or what I thought I needed, that I wasn't finding those positions. And it wasn't until I opened myself up into moving that I was able to find something shortly after I finally realized I got to start looking at other cities.
Yeah. And what was the timeline on that, as far as like how many months did it take for you to like start that first position?
Yeah, great question. So I really think it might have been like 10 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So once again, I was working retail, trying to find something in my city, and it just wasn't happening for me. But at the same time, I think something switched in my mind. Like, okay, like you have to do something. And I think that's when the network portion started to kick in for me. So I really started networking more. I said, okay, where are other people who graduated at that same time or who are coming out of college? Where are they going? How are they doing it? And I really think I had to humble myself too, because once again, when you think you're owed something, you're like, oh man, nah, like
you move a little
exactly.
different. Yeah.
If this guy can do it, like
right.
Of course I can do it too. Like
right.
if this guy can do it on his own, then of course I can do it on my own as well too. But I really had to humble myself, and I said, hey, how's it going over there? What does it look like over there? And it wasn't really till I humbled myself did those doors really start to open up. And I think that's a huge thing that everybody needs to realize. There's no, I would say, true benefit in like, oh no, I can do it on myself, I can do it on my own, or I don't need to ask for help.
Right. There's no award. You don't get an award.
Exactly.
For just shouldering it yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that was something that I really had to learn early, and that's something that really helps. That really helped me out. I'm curious though. Those are some of the kind of misconceptions that I had. What do you think were some of the misconceptions? You got your job very early, but what are still some of those misconceptions that you feel like you had when you were starting your job?
Yeah, I think that one, that you are immediately going to be using the skills that you learned in school. It could be totally different, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned just being open to learning new things. I think what happens is we go through school and it's such a concentrated time of learning that we're like, I'm not trying to learn anything. I'm just trying to execute. I just learned.
Yeah.
And so that's when you really, I mean, a lot of people, some people don't even learn that concept that you have to be a lifelong learner to really, have just a longevity. But what I'm saying is, at an early point, just understanding, okay, I just went through 4 years of school, and it gave me some tangible skills, but I still have to be really open to just learning, releasing some of the things I learned, unlearning some of the things I learned, and learning new things. And so I think one of the misconceptions is that, like, you're just going to go through college, you're going to learn, and then you're just going to go to your first job and you're just going to be able to execute what you learned and not learn anything else. And so learning is taxing, right?
Yeah.
It can be fun, but most of the times it's hard, it's difficult. And so, yeah, that was my misconception. I didn't expect, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, I got this job. I know what I can do. I know what I can contribute. You guys just have me do that. They were like, absolutely not, right? There's so many things for me to learn. So I think that's one of them. And then maybe second, I would say, is that your first job does not have to be your lifelong career.
Yeah.
Now, I obviously, as a recruiter, I'm hoping that anyone that enters into AdventHealth will stay here for their entire career and have a wonderful career here. But also knowing in doing that, they don't have to stay in that same department. They don't have to stay in that same position, that same role. And so not attaching yourself to that job. And I think that like having to learn that and go through that and understanding I'm overwhelmed right now because I might be unhappy with this position,
Yeah.
but also not giving myself grace to know, like, this is not going to be the last position that I'll ever have. So yeah, those are kind of some of the misconceptions and some of the emotions that I went through with my first role.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one that you're gonna have to go in, and that there's gonna be a learning curve. And I think that's a good point, not only for people who are starting an entry level job, but just if you're going from one department to the next. If you're going from strategist to manager, if you're switching any position, I think there's a learning curve. And I also heard someone in our department say this a couple of days ago, that you have to be able to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And that if you're not giving yourself that grace once you're in that new position, it'll only start to eat at you and you'll have self-doubt. But you need to be able to give yourself grace, and you need to be able to have time of reflection that you might not know everything. And I feel that's huge.
So Phil, I want us to talk about just the college career portion of things as far as like navigating this journey to finding your first job. I know that several things have to happen in college, or you should be seeking experiences, whether that's job experiences, volunteer, extracurricular things that you're doing. And so I would like for you to just cover what were some of the things that you did in college that helped contribute to, maybe bolstering your resume or just gaining those experiences to finding that first position.
Yeah, honestly, great question. I think for me, there are a lot of things that we could do in order to get further in our careers. And I think we'll touch on some of those, the things that look good on resumes. But I think besides the things that look good on resumes, you have to make sure that you have the personal skills to do the job as well too. A lot of these professional careers, they ask you to make presentations, they ask you to make decks and speak to a large group of people. And if that's not something that you know that you're gifted with at the early age, then that's something that you need to strengthen. At the early age, as soon as I graduated high school, I knew that I wanted to go into a field where I would be making presentations or speaking to people just from a business standpoint. Or so I know I needed to be comfortable in order to speak to people and just kind of interact and have that connection with them. What I did is I got into retail at an early age. I think as soon as I got into after high school, I got into retail, and that really helped me be able to break down those walls and any shyness that I did have. I think that went away early because I was going to people, I was asking what they needed, I was kind of making those connections, and I still see those traits and now in the work that I do. I'm not as nervous, or I'm not nervous now to go and talk to people and form those communications, because that's just a skill that I have been continuing to do since I was 18 years old. And aside from making those connections at a job, I think even just at school or talking to advisors or talking to teachers, I really can't stress enough the connections that you make with people, just because you don't know where somebody is going to be down the line. You don't know how that connection is going to help you. You don't know how much you'll learn from these people. So I think that's also a big one. My first job was solely related to knowing people that I went to college with, knowing people that I went to high school with, and that was purely off of connection. They said, "Hey, Phil, I think you'd have the right skills based off our college connection to do this," and that was able to help me land my first job. And so I think that is huge, the connections and the relationships that you build with people. But I'm curious to see what you would say and how you would answer that question.
Yeah, but before I do, I want to highlight what you said about the retail space. And
Yeah.
so I think what I've seen that individuals have an issue with is uh, communicating
Mm,
that skill. And
yeah.
so you're like you said like, well, what does retail have to do with landing a first job? And some people may look down on
Yeah.
having that job and speaking towards that in an interview. And I challenge them to actually use that as
Yeah.
to your advantage, right? So for me, here's how I'm going to shift that and shape that would be, hey, in retail, let's say you're working in a clothing store or a shoe store, I need to identify what a person is looking for. I have now learned the skill of not only making a quick connection with someone, because you don't have a lot of time
Yeah.
when you're in a retail store. A lot of people are there just, for maybe, 30 minutes to find something, but you need to not only engage with them and develop a quick relationship with them, but you also need to figure out what they need, right? So
Yeah.
I can identify two skills from working in retail. Now I'm in an interview, or I'm trying to find a job, and I can tell people I have the skill of identifying what people are looking for, really breaking down how I can help them achieve what they're looking for. And
Yep.
that's huge. That's a huge skill to
Of
have
course.
in business. If you're going into sales, if you're going into recruiting,
Yeah.
right? It's about helping them achieve a goal, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's your boss wants to know, can you help me achieve this goal? And so I think that's one way, right, for retail. And then I think you mentioned also just connecting and networking. I know for me, some of the things I did in college were I wrote down the names, and this is before LinkedIn, everyone. I mean, I joined LinkedIn, I think my last year of college, but in my phone, I had just had a notes section, and in my laptop as well, and just started to write down the names of people who were really making a difference on our campus,
Mm,
because I'm like, if they're doing big things on campus, I'm almost certain that throughout the course of their career, when they graduate from here, they will be someone that can add value
yeah.
for me. And so that's really simple and easy what you can do. I know for me, I wanted to, in my college career, I set out to my freshman year. I was like, okay, after assessing and understanding what college is about, I think everyone needs that freshman year to really just get in the good flow. For me, I wanted to become a club president or vice president, or just be a part of that leadership role for a club. And then I also wanted to engage in certain volunteer, whether that's in the community, connecting with people. I wanted to make sure that I graduated having a service kind of standard to myself, but also gaining some experience in leading people as well, leading peers, once again, you're looking for that first role. You're thinking, I don't have any leadership skills, or
Yeah.
like I've never managed people. You have. And one of the hardest people to manage is your peers.
Definitely.
Yeah, so if you can do that at the college level where everyone's in the same grade, you might even be the club president and there's a senior in that club that
Hmm.
you're talking to. And so, I just once again when we settled on what we were going to talk about, I was like, it is so possible. And a lot of college students, they're bogged down by trying to find that first job, and they think that it's not possible to really walk into something that they like to do and may not be your top pick, but something that they like to do, something that is aligns with what they studied, but also, just that it's possible, right? And that they have the skill. So those are some of the things that I did. I was able to become social work club president. And then I also was able to volunteer with some of the community-based experiences that we had at our school, going out to the community, engaging with whether that was kids or even some of the older population. So yeah.
Nice. Now I see why you got a job 2 months. No, sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks after. Wow, I love it. Okay, so now we're talking about some of the things that we can do to build that resume or for those early entry level positions. But let's get into honestly the meat and potatoes, the tips. If I don't get anything else from this podcast, what are 3 or 4 or 5 things that I can do before gaining that entry level positions, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have some notes here, so I want to make sure they get everything that they need. So I think that before you get into the interview, you want to, and let me backtrack here. If you're on the job search, right, a lot of companies are not going to even look at your resume or your job application if you're not within the window of 45 to 60 days of starting that position. And that's just from a pre-boarding or what people know as an onboarding specialist. Like, when you're working with the onboarding team, they want to know, metrics-wise, every company has metrics, how fast can we fill this rec? And so they want to know, okay, from the time that the person has applied, they should be able to start after they get the offer, 30 days, right? Yeah. Most people, 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks if you're leaving, a job, you put your notice in, you start in 2 weeks. 30 days, but max really like 45 days is how long I think most companies will wait for an individual. Of course, just depends on the situation. But I say that to say, I think 60, so before you start sending applications, if you're not in that window, I don't think you should be sending applications because you don't want that company to see your application and just decline it, reject it, put it in junk. And then what happens is, a lot of organizations have ATS, or applicant tracking system. And so they leave notes, or you can see whether or not that person was rejected from that role. And you just don't want that organization to see that you applied to 40 jobs, which is great on you. That's a great effort, and just didn't get any of them, right? Yeah. They don't know you. And so they're like, this guy applied to 40 jobs. He didn't get one. Yeah. He must not be, a great candidate. But that's not the case. It's just that you're not qualified because you're without that, right? And so prior to that 45-day window, I would be telling them, hey, you need to just be making connections, networking, going onto LinkedIn, get a template for reaching out to people, finding which organizations you align with, and reaching out, finding someone on that mutual contact list or connection, and reaching out, or just reaching out to the company itself and sending that message out, letting them know. And I say template because you want to do this and you want to be efficient, right? You want to make sure you have a template, and then you just go ahead and edit it, as needed, and just start sending those out. You're making these connections, letting people know, hey, I have skills. Here's what I can do. Here's my resume. Please let me know if you have a job. And I would specifically be asking them to point you to a producer. So a producer is someone who can produce a rec, right, or produce a role. And so, not saying that you don't want to connect with, connect with anyone and hopefully everyone you can, but those individuals who have the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to open up a rec on my team. I have roles that I need to fill. Those are the people that you really want to connect with, because before they even post that rec, if they see your information, they can say, man, I did get this rec or resume, or I got this referral, or I connected with this individual who I think would be great. They can have you in mind for that role and kind of prioritize you, which I think is great.
Yeah. But sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think you said something that we just need to take a step back. I think LinkedIn is a huge piece. I think it's a huge piece. So many people will come to me and they'll say, "Oh, hey, Phil, well, I'm looking for a job and this, and this." And I'll say, "Okay, add me on LinkedIn and let's do something. Let's find something." Right. And it's like, "Oh, well, I'm not on LinkedIn, or I haven't touched it in years." Right. And hear me when I say, before you apply for a job, and I think you touched on it about hitting the producers, but you need to research the company. You need to have already followed the company on LinkedIn. You need to be doing your research on the company, the players in the company, and that is so huge. And not enough people are doing that, I think, when looking for that job.
Yeah, no. You're absolutely right. And even on LinkedIn, if that organization, they should have an about section, and you
Yes.
just click on about, and you really understand what the organization is going through. And I'm glad you brought up LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place. Let's say you're in an interview and they ask you questions about the company.
Yeah.
You can answer them, but also LinkedIn is you're getting fresh information versus like a website, an organization's website. They may not update that every day.
Yeah.
Maybe not even every month, to be honest. It may be like a quarterly thing. They refresh and update that website. So you're not seeing the achievements and the different things that those companies are doing. And so if you go on LinkedIn, they're posting like every day.
Exactly.
Like just to even be in the game, you got to be posting every day or every other day, right? And so because of that, for instance, let's use AdventHealth. If you're looking to get a job with AdventHealth, I think you would totally wow the interviewer if you were able to speak towards what AdventHealth is going through right now as an organization. Like that would just be such a nice touch
Yeah.
for you to know about maybe some of the changes that has happened in a certain in a certain department or whatever that may be. But
Yeah, I think if you can speak to the changes and the mission, I think
Yeah.
that already puts you a step ahead of anybody else that you're interviewing next to.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge. Also, another piece that I think is huge, which gets glazed over sometimes, is internships, externships.
Yep.
I think so many times people like get out of school, or even while they're in school, like, I got to be making money. And while some internships do pay, some internships are paid, some aren't, or the majority probably are not, and that's okay because it's only for a season. And I think sometimes a lot of kids or a lot of people coming out of school or looking for that first job are like, I need to get paid. When I'm telling you, an internship is so worth it, not only for the experience, but it also teaches you how to be a professional. No matter what career you're going into, once again, we're going back to learning. You need to learn how to be a professional. You need to learn how to carry yourself as a professional, and I think that doesn't get said enough.
Yeah. And most schools, it depends on the career that or the major that you're studying, will require some sort of externship or even internship for you to even graduate.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, taking advantage of that and not just doing it to fulfill your requirement,
Yeah.
but doing it to really gain those skills. One of the things I like to coach the students on is when you're in that internship, there's going to be questions on your interview, or people are going to want to understand, like, what are the real life experiences that you've gone through? What were your successes? What were your challenges? And so in order to, and this should be done at any level, like whatever job you're in, I still do this to this day, right? And I want to make sure that if I'm on that internship, I'm tracking. If I had a great day, I want to write down how I won.
Nice.
I want to be quantitative about that. And so I want to make sure that I can speak towards what I did, how much of it, how successful it was. Like, I just don't want to say, the very baseline, hey, I worked with accounts. If you're a finance individual, you're doing a finance internship, how big of an account was it? Are you working with an $8 million budget or $80,000 budget, right? That makes a difference as to whether maybe you get a position with a large organization or a small organization. How successful were you in working with those accounts? How many people did you collaborate with? I need to understand, were you collaborating with 10 different departments, or were you just really collaborating with someone that worked right next to you? All of those different the nuances, right, are really important.
Key features to stand out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. But yeah, like you said, internships, super important. I want to just do a shameless plug for the leadership
Yeah.
internship and residency program. So here, leadership internship with AdventHealth is a summer internship ran by some wonderful individuals in our Leadership Institute. And whether you are business, management, finance, accounting, IT, marketing, communication, HR, strategic planning, we would love to have you. So I just had to do that, and it is paid. Now I will tell you, you're not going to become a millionaire, right? But it's just making sure you're not going to become a millionaire from going to an internship program, but it's making sure that you're gaining those skills and things like that. So yeah.
And an internship is just preparing yourself for the future. How many friends do we know that said, "Oh, well, it's my last summer. Like I got to do it up because it's my
Right.
last summer." But once again, these internships are so pivotal because how many of the people that you know who have done these AdventHealth internships have gone on to get jobs with AdventHealth
Right.
and have gone on to do great work in within the company.
Yeah.
So worth
And
it.
and not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
what you're trying to achieve in college is further refining what you want out of life. And what that means is
Yes.
you can do, I think that doing an internship or as many internships as you can in college, it just helps you answer the question, is this for me? Do I actually like to do this? You don't, you still have to be very exploratory when you graduate college,
Yeah.
but you want to do the bulk of that if you can up front in college.
Yeah.
That's what it's meant for. So you need to make sure what you're studying really aligns with where how you're growing and what you want for your future. And so yeah, like you're going to do an internship and you're going to say, actually, I realize I absolutely do not want to do that part
Yeah.
of this career. And so maybe you're still interested in that career, and so you're not changing your major. But now you know when you get closer to graduating and getting a position,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I don't need to go that route. I've explored that. That's not something I'm interested in. I don't need to waste time
Yeah.
trying to go down that road. Yeah.
Great point. Great point. I think it was a couple days ago. You and I had a meeting, and you spoke on, and this is something that I wrote down because I don't think not enough people are doing it. You spoke about having two email addresses.
Yes.
Yes, just talk to us about that because I feel like that's once again that's a hidden gem that
Yeah. Yeah.
just helps.
Great question, Phil. So when what I did, and I think where it works best, as you're graduating college, let's say you're within that 60-day window of needing to start applying for roles. I wanted to be efficient, but I also knew the email that I had was attached to the school, and so it was a university email. And you can continue to use that email post grad, but eventually most universities will have to cut
Yeah.
that email off. And so, but regardless, even if they don't cut those emails off, I just don't think it's best to use your university email when you're applying for jobs. One, that shows that you're definitely still a student, and
Yeah.
we got to be competitive, right? We
Yeah.
want to make sure, they when they look at us, they don't see like, oh, university.
Yeah.
Sorry, we want someone who's already graduated. So that's one part, but getting a separate email. So two emails. One, the first email is going to be you're going to go online and whatever organizations you're interested in,
Mhm.
you're going to sign up for their job alerts. And so every day or every other day, however you want that cadence to be, you now have a pool of jobs that are coming to you that you are interested in.
Mhm.
And the key to that is being first,
Mm.
especially when you don't have a lot of skin in the game. You don't have
Yeah.
a lot of leverage of being a manager or being someone with 3 to 5 years of experiences, right? Right, you're within that 0 to 2 years of experience. You want to be first when you're applying for these jobs
Yep.
because, especially at a large organization, sometimes they may get 50 to 60 applications as soon as they post a rec,
Yeah.
right? And so, just as far as like workload, that recruiter that's looking at that job, they're going to go through maybe the first 20 people to see what quality they can find.
Yeah.
And then if they don't, they'll continue to the next 20 people, right? We have to chunk this because the hiring manager doesn't want all 60 people that applied, right? And so I always preach just being first to apply. And so for that reason, signing up for those job alerts, and then as soon as you get home from your classes or whatever, wherever you might be, wherever you might be, is just jumping on and starting applying to those. And so having a separate email where those applications go, I think is just amazing. It really just helps organize things.
Yeah.
And then creating a second email, which will be just your professional email.
Yeah.
So even though you created the job alerts with that email, that doesn't have to be the email that you use to actually apply to the position.
Yeah.
And so now you have two emails. One email specific towards job alerts, and that can be done going on the organization's website, or whether you're using different platforms such as like Monster or even LinkedIn or career builder, like just for different platforms to find jobs. You can do that. But then also that second email, that's your professional email. Now you know when that dings, it's either someone that has a job interview for you
Yeah.
or a job offer for you.
Yeah.
And so I think it just helps really to push you forward and make you efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were both in recruiting. How many times have we gotten somebody interested in the position and the email was just not a professional email?
Right.
And then
Right.
we
Right. Right.
instantly just threw that person's
Yeah.
resume in the garbage.
Not
Like,
serious.
exactly,
Yeah.
not serious. So not only does it show us that you're serious, but it also just lets you know that you're dedicated to this, and and you want to be proficient in what you're doing. I think that's a very proficient way to just make sure your ducks are in a row and essentially everything is aligned. Now, I did briefly just want to touch on after you have the job.
Yeah.
So let's say that they've done all the steps, they have the 2 emails, they've done internships and everything like that, and they are starting now their first career.
Right.
So what are some things that one would do to keep the job? But also, what are some things that would help you move on to that next job? How do I be excellent in the job that I'm in an entry level position?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest questions you should be asking in an interview, or once you start a role, is asking your manager, what does success look like in this role? And really just making sure that you can model yourself after that. Quick success,
Yeah,
and I don't mean easy or like overnight success. I just mean asking that question and then executing on that will allow you to have success more quickly. And I think in doing that, managers, people that have the ability to promote you
yeah,
will see that, and it can stand out. And so I think you want to ask that question as soon as you get in the door. Hey, what makes this role successful? And then start executing on that. I think making sure that if you don't have those one-on-ones
mhm,
with your supervisor, everyone should be having those. But if they're not at the cadence that you would need them to be, definitely inquiring if your manager or your supervisor can do that. And
yeah,
if they can't, what that looks like is meeting with someone on your team, who can help propel you forward faster.
yeah,
And so I recently had to do that. Right, I was gratefully promoted into a management position, and it was the first time I was in management here at Advent Health.
mhm,
And so, although my director and I meet on a weekly cadence, I felt like I needed more. I felt like I needed to get caught up, right?
yeah,
And so I reached out to a fellow manager on our team, and I asked, I said, "Hey, can we have a biweekly
yeah,
one-on-one?" And she was, so gracious to say absolutely, right?
yeah,
And so what I mean by that is, how can you grow faster, right? You don't want to be the person that's super ambitious and
yeah,
just like making mistakes, but you just want to know, how can I grow faster and connect to the people that can get me there. And then thirdly, I think what you're wanting to do is actually learn how your role or your department connects to other departments. And so, uh, what I've done over the past really almost 10 years now being in the work field, every summer or whatever is a slow period for you in your slow season in your role, you should be doing a shadow experience with another person. And so it doesn't mean that you're trying to take their job.
yeah,
It doesn't mean that you want to leave your
yeah,
role, right? And so you're just trying to further understand, hey, what do you do? And in any way, does this connect to what I do? And if it doesn't, you're still learning about the larger organization, and you can still pocket that information for later, as growing yourself as a business person. But if it does connect, then great. You can only add to the team and bring that back to your team, right? So you just got to find ways to
yeah.
add value. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I think is huge is setting goals for yourself. Yes, your manager might have goals for you, but what are your personal goals? What are
Right.
your goals that you're trying to achieve in order to go somewhere? And once again, we spoke about learning and being a constant student and
Yep.
willing to have that spirit of learning, those building those relationships, being adaptable. I also feel once again those are the things huge going in just as a blank slate, as a sheet of paper, just going in and writing and trying to soak up as much things as you can. And then you spoke about having a partner or somebody that you can kind of go to, a manager outside. Yeah, or even just a buddy, somebody who's kind of been there already. And even if you're just grabbing lunch and you're kind of just throwing little nuggets of, hey, like, well, I don't know what to do here. What are your thoughts? And just picking somebody and being and befriending them. And maybe they
Yep.
have a little bit of higher status than you, but you're just constantly downloading that information.
Right.
And I think those are just some crucial things that I think once you're in the job will
Right.
help you keep the job and help you move to that next level.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I go back and just say something that I
Yeah.
think is, if they took nothing but this
Mm,
in your entry level, when you're gaining an entry level or trying to obtain an entry level position, or if you're just looking to go on another interview, if you're already in the work field,
yeah.
I think that you have to be hyper specific on how you can contribute.
Mm,
Like, and especially if you're a student, because you have all of these, i- if you're a student to graduate, there's no way that when you're going for an interview that you can say like, hey, I know I can absolutely do everything within this role at a high level. You you don't have any work experience, and so it'd
yeah.
be hard to say that, but there are parts of it where you can contribute. And what the employer needs to know is, okay, what can I count on you for? And know that, okay, you can contribute in this way and you can handle that, but what do I need to coach you on? And what that does is that allows them to assess whether or not they're willing to take a risk on you.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Like, it's all risk, right?
Yeah.
That allows them to assess whether or not, okay, can I take a risk on this individual? They have about four of the 6 items that I need them to do. Can I teach them the 2 things that they need to know? Do I have the time? Is my team in the position to go with to move forward with someone who can do 4 of the things, but not those 2 things? And how does that affect the larger team if we add this entry level person? And so those are all real questions that
Yeah.
hiring managers have to ask themselves. And so I think, once again, figure out what you can contribute from day one. Like, if you
Yeah.
started this role tomorrow,
Yeah.
what can you contribute? And making sure that you can message that and communicate that in a real way in that interview or when you're networking with anyone. So
I love that. No, and these are all crucial things that I think don't get spoken about enough, and I just love that we're taking the time to really hone in on some of these real life practices that people who are looking for a job can start doing today right after they finish listening to this.
yeah, yeah, agreed, agreed. Well, we really appreciate you all just tuning in. I know this is a different type of episode, but we thought this was definitely beneficial to do. And so, if you're looking for our podcast, you can find it on Apple, you can find it on Spotify, you can also find it on Google and YouTube for the visual version as well. We'd love for you to subscribe, leave a rating, leave a comment, leave a review. We're totally open, and we want to hear from you. So, Phil, once again, glad to have you here as
Thank
a
you, man.
host on the podcast,
Glad to be
here
here.
at the Whole Career Podcast. And till next time, you guys have a great one.